It's the year 1781. America has just won its independence from Britain. The 13 colonies are now free, and together they call themselves the United States of America. But here comes the big question: who will run this new nation? To solve this, they created the Articles of Confederation. Think of it like 13 brothers forming a family. They said, "No big boss, everyone will be equal." Sounds fair, right? But soon, problems began. Backhand index pointing right weakness number 1, no strong central government. There was no president, no national court system. The Congress existed, but it was too weak to control the states. Backhand index pointing right weakness number 2, no power to tax. The government couldn't collect taxes. Imagine running a country with no money. Soldiers who fought in the war often went unpaid. Backhand index pointing right weakness number 3, laws without enforcement. Even if Congress passed a law, states could simply ignore it. If one state said, "We won't follow," nothing could be done. Soon chaos followed. States started taxing each other's goods. They even printed their own separate money, 13 states, 13 different currencies. People began to realize, if this continues, America will never be strong. That's why leaders called for the Philadelphia Convention of 1787. They agreed. The Articles of Confederation are too weak. We need a brand new constitution. It's the hot summer of May 1787. In the city of Philadelphia, 55 delegates from 12 states gather at the State House, today known as Independence Hall. Rhode Island? They refused to come. They didn't trust the idea of a stronger government. The mission was clear. America was falling apart under the Articles of Confederation. Something had to change. At first, the delegates planned only to fix the Articles. But soon they realized, no patchwork will work. We need an entirely new system. Backhand index pointing right George Washington was chosen as the president of the convention. His calm presence kept everyone united. Backhand index pointing right James Madison, known as the father of the Constitution, brought detailed plans for a stronger national government. Backhand index pointing right Benjamin Franklin, at 81 years old, used his humor and wisdom to calm heated debates. But disagreements exploded. Large states wanted more representation. Small states feared being crushed. Weeks of arguments, until finally, light bulb, the Great Compromise was born. 2 houses of Congress. Senate, every state equal. House of Representatives, based on population. Another fiery issue, slavery. Northern and southern states clashed. The result was the painful 3/5 compromise, where enslaved people would count as 3/5 of a person for representation. By September 1787, after 4 long months of debate, a brand new document was ready. The United States Constitution. 39 delegates signed it, but not everyone was happy. Some feared it gave the government too much power. Still, it marked a new beginning, a stronger, united America. Summer 1787, inside Philadelphia's State House. The Constitutional Convention was in full swing, but the delegates were stuck in a deadlock. Backhand index pointing right the problem? Representation in Congress. Large states like Virginia wanted power based on population. We have more people, so we should have more votes. Small states like New Jersey protested. If we agree to that, you'll crush us. We'll have no voice at all. Tension grew. Some delegates even threatened to walk out. Without a solution, the entire Constitution could collapse. That's when Roger Sherman of Connecticut stepped forward with a bold idea. Let's compromise. Light bulb, his plan was simple but brilliant. Create 2 houses of Congress. In the House of Representatives, seats would be based on population, good for large states. In the Senate, every state would get 2 seats, good for small states. At first, debates raged. But slowly, delegates saw this was the only way forward. On July 16, 1787, the compromise was approved. The deadlock was broken. The new Congress would be bicameral, 2 houses, balancing fairness and equality. This, Great Compromise, saved the convention. Without it, the Constitution might never have been written. At the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia, another heated debate broke out, this time over slavery. Backhand index pointing right northern states argued, slaves should not count toward representation, because they are not free citizens. Backhand index pointing right southern states replied, but if slaves don't count, our population will look smaller, and we'll lose power in Congress. It was a brutal standoff. The South wanted enslaved people to count fully for representation, to gain more seats in the House. The North wanted them excluded entirely. The convention was stuck again. If no solution was found, the Union itself might shatter before it even began. Finally, a compromise was reached. Light bulb for both representation and taxation, each enslaved person would be counted as 3/5 of a person. It wasn't fair. It wasn't just. But at that moment, it was seen as the only way to keep North and South united under one constitution. This deal became known as the 3/5 Compromise. In September 1787, when the Constitution was completed, this painful compromise was written into it. And while it solved the immediate conflict, it left behind deep divisions. Decades later, those same divisions would explode into the Civil War. When the delegates in Philadelphia were drafting the Constitution, one fear haunted them all. Backhand index pointing right. What if one person, or one group, becomes too powerful, just like King George III? They had just fought a bloody war to escape tyranny. So, they wanted a system where no one could ever become a dictator again. That's when the idea of separation of powers was born. Light bulb power would be divided into 3 branches of government. 1. Legislative branch, Congress, to make laws. 2. Executive branch, President, to enforce laws. 3. Judicial branch, Supreme Court, to interpret laws. But that wasn't enough. The delegates added a system of checks and balances, so that each branch could limit the power of the others. Backhand index pointing right. Congress could make laws, but the President could veto them. Backhand index pointing right. The President could lead the military, but only Congress could declare war. Backhand index pointing right. Judges could strike down unconstitutional laws, but they were nominated by the President and approved by the Senate. It was like building a machine where every gear kept the others in check. This design didn't just protect America from kings. It became a model for democracies around the world. The Constitution was written in Philadelphia, but now came the real challenge. Backhand index pointing right. Would the states accept it? As soon as the document was sent out, America split into 2 camps. Classical building the Federalists. Leaders like Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, and John Jay. They argued, we need a strong national government to survive. Without it, America will be weak and divided. To win people's trust, they wrote essays called the Federalist Papers. These explained why the Constitution was the best path forward. Balanced scale. The Anti-Federalists. Leaders like Patrick Henry, George Mason, and Samuel Adams. They worried. This new Constitution gives too much power to the central government. What about the rights of the people? Where is their protection? They demanded a Bill of Rights before they would agree. For months, fiery debates filled newspapers, taverns, and town halls. Ordinary farmers, merchants, and veterans argued passionately. Should they trust this new government, or was it just another road to tyranny? In the end, the Federalists narrowly won. By 1788, enough states had ratified the Constitution for it to go into effect. But to ease fears, the Federalists promised. Backhand index pointing right. We will add a Bill of Rights soon. The Constitution was written, but across America, suspicion spread. Ordinary citizens asked. Backhand index pointing right. Why should we trust this new government? Won't it just become another monarchy? The battle for ratification was on. To win, the Federalists needed to convince the people. That's when 3 men stepped up with their pens as weapons. Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, John Jay. Together, they began writing a series of essays, published in New York newspapers. Each essay explained, defended, and promoted the Constitution. Light bulb these writings became known as the Federalist Papers. Hamilton wrote the most fiery, energetic, persuasive. Madison, calm and logical, explained deep principles like checks and balances and separation of powers. Jay, though sick for much of the time, focused on the importance of unity and foreign policy. In total, 85 essays were published. They became a kind of owner's manual for the new Constitution. At first, they were just newspaper articles. But soon they spread widely, shaping public opinion. People who had doubted the Constitution began to see how it could protect both liberty and order. The Constitution was ready. But many Americans still weren't satisfied. Backhand index pointing right, farmers, veterans, and everyday citizens asked, "What about our freedoms? Where are the guarantees that protect the people, not just the government?" This became the rallying cry of the Anti-Federalists. They warned, "If we accept this Constitution without protections, the new government could silence us, disarm us, even take our property." Their voices grew louder across the states. Town halls echoed with protests. Pamphlets and newspapers demanded one thing: backhand index pointing right, a Bill of Rights. Federalists at first resisted. Hamilton argued, "Why list rights? If we forget one, the government might abuse it. The Constitution already limits power." But others, like James Madison, realized compromise was the only way. To win over the skeptics, they promised, "Ratify the Constitution now, and we will add amendments to protect your rights." This promise turned the tide. One by one, the states agreed to ratify. And soon, Madison himself drafted the first amendments, the seed of what became the Bill of Rights. The Constitution was ratified in 1788. But one promise still hung in the air. Backhand index pointing right, a Bill of Rights to protect the people. So, in 1789, James Madison got to work. He gathered ideas from state constitutions, debates, and even English traditions of liberty. The goal? To create clear, unshakable protections for American freedoms. By 1791, 10 amendments were approved. Together, they became known as the Bill of Rights. Lightbulb, what did they guarantee? 1. Freedom of speech, press, religion, assembly, petition. 2. Right to bear arms. 3. No quartering of soldiers in homes. 4. Protection against unreasonable searches and seizures. 5. Due process and protection against self-incrimination. 6. Right to a fair and speedy trial. 7. Trial by jury in civil cases. 8. No cruel or unusual punishments. 9. People have rights beyond those listed. 10. Powers not given to the federal government belong to the states or the people. For ordinary Americans, this was more than law. It was a shield, proof that the government could not silence them, disarm them, or take away their basic rights. The Bill of Rights turned the Constitution from a plan of government into a promise of freedom. The Constitution was ratified in 1788. But one promise still hung in the air. Backhand index pointing right, a Bill of Rights to protect the people. So, in 1789, James Madison got to work. He gathered ideas from state constitutions, debates, and even English traditions of liberty. The goal? To create clear, unshakable protections for American freedoms. By 1791, 10 amendments were approved. Together, they became known as the Bill of Rights. Lightbulb, what did they guarantee? 1. Freedom of speech, press, religion, assembly, petition. 2. Right to bear arms. 3. No quartering of soldiers in homes. 4. Protection against unreasonable searches and seizures. 5. Due process and protection against self-incrimination. 6. Right to a fair and speedy trial. 7. Trial by jury in civil cases. 8. No cruel or unusual punishments. 9. People have rights beyond those listed. 10. Powers not given to the federal government belong to the states or the people. For ordinary Americans, this was more than law. It was a shield, proof that the government could not silence them, disarm them, or take away their basic rights. The Bill of Rights turned the Constitution from a plan of government into a promise of freedom.